You're rolling.
How are you guys with reading?
I can read Alter Clef, but I've already tried to transpose two different clarinet parts, so please do not make me try and transpose something entirely different.
Okay. Well, so first I should start out for the new additions to the band, Grayson and Micah, welcome. Basically, to catch you up with what we did Monday, pretty much. The piece is in honor of the Columbine shooting, and it's supposed to be this big message of hope. We watched a Netflix little short film called If Anything Happens, I Love You. I would recommend that you both watch it on your free time. It's pretty great. It's very sad though. And so we came up with words to describe how we felt, the emotions. So we had happy, sad, loneliness, anger, confusion, and devastation. And so then I handed everyone who was here a blank score of the Columbine alma mater, and I sort of asked, I split them up into two groups of two, and I asked them to fill in everything to sort of make that piece their own. So they added dynamics, keys, some added time signatures and tempo markings, fermatas, caesuras, stuff like that. And that's what you had on your stands when you came in. So if you want to pull that out, we'll play that. We'll start with group one, which was Kayla and Michael. Kayla, if you want to explain what your vision of this piece was for the group.
Is that this one?
Yeah.
Well, we decided to change the key to be more like somber and darker. So there are 6 flats, and we put in some crescendos and decrescendos where we thought might be appropriate. In measure 6, we added a fermata over the last note, just to like hold it out before we continue with the last phrase, and then we added a retardando in the very last measure for emphasis and superlative.
So, I'll put viola for this. We're just going to do a little run through. It doesn't matter if like pitches, that kind of stuff. You know, we'll just, yeah, you can do that.
I realized what you wanted to try, that maybe a different part from the
So, quarter note is 60. Do you think you guys need a metronome, or would we good? We'll probably good. So this is a tempo. So we'll just take it right from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Give it up for Kayla and Michael. Alright, our next group was good old Elfie and Becca. Do one of you guys want to present about your piece?
Well, we didn't know what it was when we were doing it, so we just decided based on what it, because it said chorale,
Mm-hmm.
decided to make it into a minor key just because the video we watched was sad. And based on like the whole picture, it looked like it was in like C major. So we decided to put it in C minor. And then I thought it would be cool if we put railroad tracks right before one of the cadences. So we did.
Alright.
Anything else?
What emotions were you trying to capture in this piece of our 6 that are up there?
Sad.
Alright, let's take it. What tempo did you want this?
Probably what we just did.
One, two, three, 4. Alright, give it up for Lindsay. You know what's something? I'm subscribing to your newsletter. So the whole purpose of this whole assignment was to get you guys thinking about expressiveness through music. Because as some of you may know, later on in this piece that alma mater makes a return, and it's this big emotional part. It's the climax of the whole piece. If we had more time and a full band, we'd get to it, but unfortunately we don't. So, but that same expressive thinking is constant throughout the whole piece, and it's especially constant in the beginning of the piece, where we see, at least in my mind, I see like this whole beginning as like someone, sitting with their head down, feeling sad about this, and there's just some bigger force that's sort of lifting the head up towards a better day. And so it starts really low in this quiet thing, and more and more instruments start coming up, coming out of the blue and joining this big, like, collective thing, this huge crescendo to where you'll see in measure 9, this big, huge emotional just release of, everything. So take all those emotions we talked about, all those emotions you felt in that piece, and channel it all into measure 9. And I'm going to challenge you because I know this is obviously not this normal size of a wind band, but we'll see if we can still get that same sound, that same energy. The people who are in the studio right now, I want you to rustle their jimmies by how much sound you can make. Yes? You don't have your part. You very much want to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Darn tootin'. That's right.
So back.
Trumpet.
Trombone.
Let's see.
This one. Measure 1. Make sure you guys are crescendoing right away on measure 5. It's a quick crescendo from piano to, you know, it says forte, but you could play that, you know, triple fortissimo if you want to. Yeah, and then Rebecca, you just came in, I think like a beat early on measure 13. Or no, sorry, it was measure 14. All right, let's take it once more from the beginning.
Nice. Let's end there for some comments, okay? Comments for Will?
Probably didn't look down as much as you should. It was nice.
That was like my one goal today. I was like, I'm not gonna look down as much. And I did it in the beginning. I was like, shoot.
I did not catch that there was a rip at like 15, and I feel like I was trying to play at the same speed as I was before. I didn't really like catch you like staring and glaring at me, so I don't know whether I just like slipped into the groove or whether you just like weren't queuing with me.
Yeah, I tried to let some of that stuff go because most of us here are transposing when we don't transpose, and so I don't want to like be like that person who's like, you need to get second guesser at the beginning of today was, I felt like by not saying what it was, it really opened up like the path for like clear communication of like you were feeling that's not influenced by anything else other than like what you as a group is feeling. I do think in the future I'll definitely do it differently. That was it.
Also, just for like small ensemble stuff, if you're not gonna like conduct, you can do like gesture and like do cutoffs for like formalities and like show the beat a little bit, or if like you don't feel comfortable doing that, like you could just say like, Grayson, can you like show like cutoffs or like have like Kayla or Lindsay do it for like art pieces.
I will admit that I wasn't necessarily paying attention to you because I was trying to transpose, but I feel like 9, I didn't notice how big your gestures were or anything. And I feel like if they were big because it's this dramatic moment, I probably would have like caught it out of the corner of my eye. So maybe like something more there to show that like this is like a big, important part.
Put a pin in that. We're going to put a pin in that and talk about it in just a second. Okay? Here's what I'm going to throw out my thoughts. I loved this lesson idea with the chorale. I think you could look at this some different ways, like you should tell them right off the bat that it's the Columbine alma mater, or you can keep it a secret and it becomes this kind of a cool reveal to the students later, and oh my god, and I could go either way on that. My problem with it was not that, and it was not the concept. I thought the concept of that as a lesson, really, really cool creative idea. I loved it. My concern is that if you're doing this with, for instance, like a high school group, and you hand them this thing and they haven't ever heard it before, that you're asking them to look at this thing and sight analyze it. You're asking them to audiate it and try to figure out like, oh, this is in major, but it could be in minor, or let's make this a dramatic moment. They're just gonna, like, that's maybe beyond their ability. That would have been beyond my ability when I was in high school. And so there's gotta be a lot of prep around that, or maybe just like, let's play this together once through so that you hear the notes and rhythms. And then you can make your alterations to it. But asking them to look at a score and then analyze the score and figure out how they want to change it and edit it to make it have an emotional impact, I think is missing a handful of steps for a developmental level musician. But conceptually, I adored it, Will. I thought it was a really cool idea. From the conducting standpoint, I want to talk to you about 3 things. Number 1, you did look down less. However, you looked up more. And I don't mean looked up at your players. I mean you looked up at the ceiling because you didn't want to look at the faces of the people in front of you. That's something that can be construed as displaying a certain lack of vulnerability, right? That you don't want to be in the sound with them and looking at them and making eye contact with them and connecting with them. This thing where you get to the peak moment of a phrase and you look up, like because it's so rapturous, no, because you break connection with the ensemble. The thing where you close your eyes, this is not just you, I'm saying like universally for conductors, this thing where conductors like close their eyes at that really intimate point. Yeah, also, no. There's this philosophical thing that you have to decide as a conductor. Do you believe that you are conducting and shaping the sound, the music? Or do you believe that you are conducting the musicians, as in you're helping, your gestures are helping to guide the musicians through the music? I believe that I'm conducting human beings, people. And so it's important to me that I connect with the people that I'm conducting. If you believe that those people are just creating this sound and that somehow you're shaping this sound that they're making, like you're a sculptor, that's different. Then you're looking where you want, but I don't believe, like that's not my conducting philosophy. I know people for whom that is their conducting philosophy. I'm not one of those people. I think you've got to, at most intimate moment rather than, like, for instance, at that most intimate moment rather than closing your eyes to shape the music somehow, that's where they need your support the most to try to keep that soft sound going. So try to not look away from the group. Look down at the music. If you're not looking at the music, then where are you looking? Hopefully you're looking at the group, at the players, okay? Second thing I wanted to talk to you about. Grab your baton. You did a much better job, I thought, this time on keeping your palm to the floor. However, there's always a however there with me, isn't it? You're breaking the sagittal plane pretty big time when you come across your body for B2. Instead of, like that, instead of coming across like this and sweeping but trying to keep the stick out towards the group, so you're doing this, you're actually going one, and then when you come in, you're doing the most comfortable thing possible, which is you're bringing your left arm in towards your shoulder, which is a sagittal plane break, which is hard to see, hard to look at, hard to read, and technically when you come back for beat 3 is kind of changing intensity in a way that you may not necessarily want. So be really conscious of that. How do you practice keeping yourself from breaking the sagittal plane? Walls are so good for so many things in conducting, as opposed to standing with your back to the wall. Turn around and put your fingers against the wall. And then conduct like this, even without a stick in your hand, but conduct like this, and feel what it feels like to go as far as you can stretch over to your left-hand side with your right hand without your fingers coming away from the wall. So pretend that there is a wall here, and that as you're conducting, you have to stay in contact with it. You're not allowed to pull away from it, and you're not allowed to push into it, unless it's a conscious decision to do so, okay? And the third thing, we put a pin in that where you felt like, we got to this dramatic part and you felt like you wanted it to be bigger. I don't mean to tell you what you want, but I'm going to tell you what you want. You don't want it to be bigger, you want there to be contrast with what came before it. So the beginning was too big. I thought you were plenty big when you got to 9, but that is going to feel enormous if your beginning is softer. Okay? Let's take this from the beginning. This warms my heart. I love it. So it starts on beat 4. Come here for just a moment, Will. What is this? Do you know what they're doing? They're playing kind of this long ascending scale. What are the clarinets doing, which are technically your violins right now?
Like the same thing, but beat thing.
What is that? Ties over to the bar line.
Yeah.
What is that? There's a musical theoretical term for it. This is suspension.
Yeah.
Suspension, resolution, and then on beat 4 you leap up to a new pitch that ties over to the bar line, becomes a suspension, and then it resolves. Okay? Beginning. To me, the suspensions are the whole point of the beginning of this piece because there's so much tension there. This entire thing, the entire first 8 measures are like one gigantic upbeat, right? Everything about it is like this gigantic anacrusis that's trying to get to bar 9. So anything that I can do in there to bring out all the more tension to make the release into bar 9 feel so much more heroic, so much more powerful, right? And to me, those suspensions have a lot to do with it, so I'm going to make some gestures to try to lean into the suspensions and relax away, lean into the suspensions and relax away. But everything is small and controlled at the beginning so that I have space to create this so that to the musicians this moment feels like an enormous impact, okay? You looked up a lot more, you corrected, like your hand was like this a lot more. There were a lot of improvements here, but the idea to keep pushing, this thing I think is going to really help clarify. Trying to keep your hand, don't bring your hand into your opposite shoulder as you're coming across your body in 4. That's a big one. Keeping in contact. You notice when we got to that big emotional impact moment, where were my eyes? Did you notice? Yeah, I was right here with everybody, making sure that I had everybody's attention before I gave that downbeat, as I stretched in this poco ritardando right there. I didn't poco ritardando and look away. I poco ritardando, look at everybody and said, are you still with me? Because we got a job to do right here, and it's an important one.
And I wasn't looking at you, but I could feel
No,
it.
but you can feel it.
Yeah,
because in your
I was
peripheral
being
vision.
stared at. Hold this note, hold on, no.
Yeah. I'm not expecting when I look around an ensemble that everybody is giving me eye contact back, but they know when I'm looking at them. They feel it. More than they see it, they feel it. But what they really do is feel it in some way in their peripheral vision. They're aware of me and what shapes I'm tracing and how I'm conducting up here on the podium, whether or not they're staring right at me or not, because I'm in their peripheral field of vision. And he was aware that I was looking towards him just because of that, and it changes the way that you play, even though you're not staring at me, you're looking at your music. It changes your reaction, the way that, yeah. Whereas if I were looking up like this, he would also be aware of that, and there would be a certain lack of connection about the genuine character that I'm going for as I'm going across that part. Okay? Okay, you'll see it on the tapes. Nice job, Will. Rebecca. You want to distribute some parts? You're doing folk tune fiddle dance, yeah? I didn't mess that part up. And I will get your SD card in and we'll get you rolling.